Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special session on COVID-19 and where we are heading. May I request President ACMA, Mr. Deepak Jain, to please propose his welcome remarks.
Thank you, Anil. Good evening, friends, colleagues from all over India. Thank you for joining in this very special and exclusive session. And as you can see on your screen, we're saying COVID-19, where are we heading? A question which is in everyone's mind. And I must compliment the southern region, and especially my friend and colleague, Satish Machani, to actually bring this very exclusive session with two eminent and distinguished personalities. Today, India is fully under some kind of lockdown or a curfew, be it partial, be it complete. And as supply chains, we are fractured. We know that most of our OEMs have also declared preponement of their annual maintenance shutdowns, and depending on the situation, they are extending the same. We as supply chain partners have to keep on supplying and make our manufacturing safe and balance between lives and livelihoods. As we are going to restart the operation, I think we want to know what kind of nature of this virus we will be dealing with in the future. And I think we will find a lot of answers in this interaction. So without wasting much our time, I would like to hand over the mic to my friend Satish to give the proper introductions. Satish, over to you.
Thank you, Deepak. A very good evening to everybody. And I'm extremely overwhelmed by the response and participation for today's event. And I would like to first of all thank the president of ACMA, Mr. Deepak, who's a friend of mine, for really having encouraged this event. In today's world, as Deepak said, our mind space is predominantly occupied by only one thing, and that is this pandemic. We are actually surrounded by a plethora of information, which actually oftentimes leaves us with more questions than answers. And since the situation is actually evolving, there is really a need for authentic and current information. And to realize this, I'm very grateful to Dr. Ravi for accepting to do this session for us. In this ghastly second wave of COVID, Dr. Ravi is one of the most sought out experts on all subjects related to this pandemic. He appears on primetime television on a regular basis to offer his views and advice. We are very glad that you are here with us today, sir, and we hope that our minds will get decluttered with your wisdom on this subject. To moderate this event, I would like to invite Dr. Kalyan Sundaram. Let me quickly introduce him to all of you. He is Doctor of Medicine in Psychiatry from the 1970 batch. He was in the Faculty of Nimmans from 1976 to 1981 and having a private practice after that. His list of accolades is enormous. He's the Honorary CEO of Richmond Fellowship, currently Honorable Advisor RFS. He has been Professor of Psychiatry and Principal at the RFPG College till 2015. And he has published various articles, journals, and written many textbooks as well. He was finalist of Bangalorean of the Year Award in 2013. He's also holder of the WAPR, the Indian Chapter Award for Excellence in Psychological Rehabilitation in 2016. He's also holder of American Psychiatric Society for Dedicated and Distinguished Leadership Award in the year 2019. He's been honored by the IPS for the contribution to PSR in December 2020. And actually, this list goes on and on. I have to tell all of you how this session actually came about. I had attended a session by Dr. Ravi a while back, and honestly, that session cleared a lot of my doubts on COVID. You know, there were questions of wave 1, wave 2, now there's questions of wave 3. Vaccines, which one to take, when not to take, about children, about seniors, etc. And Dr. Ravi took all of those questions head on. I felt that it's very important to disseminate this knowledge to as many people as possible. To facilitate this, I reached out to Dr. Kalyan. When I spoke to him, he actually spoke as if he knew me forever, though I was speaking to him for the first time. The call actually lasted for 15 minutes, but he made me smile bulk of the time by his quick banter. And before closing the call, he told me why he did that. He stressed the importance of keeping our spirits high. He's so right indeed. All of us, all we hear every day is fear and sorrow and horror. Yes, we are surrounded by it. We have not actually placed enough importance to the psychological impact that it has had on all of us. And Dr. Kalyan told me that we have to remain positive. That's the only spirit and attitude that will carry us through these difficult times. We are at ACMA, as our president said, our membership base is more than 800 across the country. We have always been at forefront of social responsibility. And our members through these times have been involved in various activities such as creating beds, providing oxygen, concentrators, medical equipment, PPEs, etc., to support the administration to deal with this terrible second wave. And I believe, honestly, sharing knowledge on this pandemic is of equal importance as well. So today, we are very proud to present Dr. Ravi and Dr. Kalyan, who will help us understand this situation a little better. And at the end of the session, I'm sure all of us will have a better understanding of where we are. I also sincerely thank Shubha, Murali, and special thanks to Anil and Nirja for organizing this event. And without much delay, the floor is all yours, Dr. Kalyan. Thank you.
Thank you, Satish. And thank you, ACMA president and members. And Satish's two other arms. He's a three-legged man, two other legs, two other eyes being Nirja and Anil. When Satish approached me about this problem, I'll have to check with Dr. Ravi. And he said, sir, we are not able to get Dr. Ravi. They said, if we approach Dr. Ravi through you, we may be able to succeed. So here I am, the Pujari for the Ravi, the idol. Ravi, as you all know, Dr. Ravi is so popular in this matter of conveying the right kind of information. You see him everywhere. You see him here, you see him there, like the Scarlet Pimpernel. The why? Because there are several people conveying several things in what Ravi very fondly calls the WhatsApp University. Ravi has a very fondness for WhatsApp University. You will hear him referring to that very soon. Today is Eid Ramzan, and today also is Akshaya Tritiya. Some of the men friends of mine very gleefully messaged me and said, Dr. Saab, one good thing about this COVID lockdown, we are not allowed to go out. Otherwise, our wives would have cajoled, coaxed, and maybe used some strong arm tactics to go and buy gold. If you buy gold on Akshaya Tritiya day, they say you will buy gold every day, every week. We were terrified. The virus saved us. There are good things about the virus, but there are a lot of things that we do not know about the virus, not about the virus. A lot of things we do not want to appreciate about our own behavior, which contributes to the virus spread. Last week, I saw a small video sent by a friend. Lockdown announced in Bangalore, and in a small place in Chikpet, a little door is opened, and I'm waiting. What is happening now? About 70, 80 women are coming out buying saris. That is the time allotted for buying essentials. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what is essential? What is relevant in these times? How are we contributing to the sustenance of the virus? Instead of allowing it to dissipate, we contribute to its survival. Ravi will talk about it more. To introduce, before I ask Dr. Ravi to speak, a brief introduction. The retired professor of Neurovirology in MANS, graduate of Madras Medical College, MD Microbiology from JIPMER. He started the specialty of Neurovirology in MANS about 30 years ago. He has several contributions, patents, several original research which has taken him to different parts of the country and been member of WHO, CRO, and an examiner for countries like Sri Lanka, and is a visiting professor of Liverpool, UK in 2013. When Ravi retired very recently, I asked Ravi what you're going to have a good time. spend a relaxed time with the family. He said, my work has now begun to be more because of the virus that has spread among us. He's so busy, sometimes if his wife needs to ask him something, she joins the program, then asks him a question. And that is how busy Dr. Ravi is. Without wasting any of your time, I now request my dear friend, Dr. Ravi. He is so popular in his area of specialty, most people refer to him as Virus Ravi because he and virus are inseparable. The YouTube that was created after the KGA event, my friend who's keeping a track of it says till yesterday morning, it has hit 35,000 hits. I'm sure with your YouTube, because people are hungry for knowledge, people are hungry for real, correct information. I give you Dr. Ravi to make his presentation, after which there'll be question and answers. Several questions have already been sent to us. Once we finish it, we may be able to take a few questions on the spot. No raising of hands, only questions that have come up on the question and answer box will be moderated by me. Sometimes Ravi will answer, sometimes I might intervene. You'll have to put up with me. Now, Dr. Ravi. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalyan Sundaram. Namaskar to everybody. Thank ACMA President Mr. Deepak, Satish, Anil, Murli, and all the others, office bearers and members of ACMA. It's indeed a great pleasure to meet so many people online and talk to you about COVID-19, where we are heading. What I will do, this is the outline of my talk. I will be starting with some acknowledgements because it's important to acknowledge events. Give you a one slide history of what we have learned from history. Then an audit of what we have learned in the last 2 waves. With respect to the virus, its spread, the clinical manifestations and vaccines, and what is ahead for us. How do we prepare for the future? The underlying thread for the entire presentation is not to create panic, but to empower all of you with knowledge, which is credible, and which is not based on impressions, but is based on scientific facts, so that you then can contribute to prevention and protection of yourself as well as your family. There's a quotation at the bottom of this slide, and I'm beginning to learn a lot about this guy called George Santayana. He lived between 1863 and 1952, and he worked at Harvard. And later life he spent in his home country, Spain. He's a philosopher, essayist, poet, and novelist, and his quote many of you would have come across in your life. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. That's exactly what I'm doing in this slide, trying to show you a graph of data more than a century ago. This is about the Spanish flu. It shows the dates on the horizontal axis, and it shows the number of deaths on the vertical axis. And this is from UK, weekly death. It all started in late 1917, and during the World War, there was a number of soldiers who came down with flu. Then there was a lull for a couple of months, and then came the second wave, which was very, very huge, which is almost 5 to 7 times what the first wave was. Very reminiscent of what is happening today in India. The second wave in COVID is 5 to 7 times more, depending on which area we're talking about. And then, of course, there was a lull for a couple of weeks or months, and then the third wave came. So this is reality. It has happened earlier. It will happen now also. This virus that has caused this devastation in our lifetime is called corona because it has an appearance of a crown under the electron microscope. It is spherical in shape and is studded on the surface with a protein that is globular and that gives the appearance of a crown. Now, these are viruses that measure about 60 to 120 nanometers. They've been around for quite some time. There are 6 different coronaviruses that were known to mankind before the advent of the new novel coronavirus that came in 2019. SARS and MERS were the other severe coronaviruses. The other 4 cause mild symptoms like cold, cough, and diarrhea. These were the first 2 severe respiratory syndrome viruses. SARS appeared in 2002, and by 2003, we had learned how to control it. And now it occurs only as sporadic cases. MERS is Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, emerged in the Middle East, and it's still spreading, but restricted largely to the Middle Eastern region of the world. These viruses are widely distributed in humans, animals, and birds. And what happens, another important feature of these viruses is they can spill over from one species to another. The reservoirs of coronaviruses are bats and rodents. All the 3 coronaviruses that cause severe respiratory disease, namely SARS-CoV-1, MERS coronavirus, and the new SARS-CoV-2. The natural reservoirs for these 3 viruses are bats. The SARS-CoV-1, which came in 2002, is a spillover from a bat to a civet cat. The MERS coronavirus is a spillover from bat to camels and then human beings. And SARS-CoV-2 is a spillover from bat to an anteater known as pangolin and then to human beings. And we are guessing now that this must have happened in the wet market of Wuhan in southern China. These viruses are endowed with the property of mutating. What is mutation? Mutation is the ability to change its appearance and its properties. Now, once a mutant emerges in any part of the world, it quickly spreads to the other parts of the world. Now, what you're seeing on the graph in the top is a cartoon that shows you how the variant detected in United Kingdom, most popularly in lay press known as UK variant. It is not that the variation, the mutation occurred in UK. It is that the mutation was first detected in UK. Now it has spread to almost, it has spread to all the continents and more than about 70, 80 nations. Now, thanks to air travel, spread of viruses is occurring very, very fast. It's only a question of days, if not weeks, when viruses spread from one country to another. In the bottom is the actual density of spread of the UK variant in a heat map. We in research use a heat map. The darker the color, that means the density of cases is more. The lighter the color, that means density is less. Now, this is a heat map that between December and February of this year, December last year. You can see in a matter of 3 months, the UK variant has spread to many, many countries, including India. So why do viruses mutate? People always ask me, why do viruses mutate? Coronavirus is an RNA virus. All RNA viruses have an enzyme known as RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. The function of this enzyme is to copy the genetic material of the virus. And when it copies, it makes mistakes because it has poor proofreading ability. So the coronavirus RNA has 30,000 blocks in it. Each time it is copied, there's one error. That means 29,999 nucleotides are identical to the parent strand. but there is one change. You can imagine this is the frequency of mutation of COVID-19 virus. And in an individual, millions of viral particles are produced a day. So there'll be millions of mutations. Thankfully, most of these mutations do not change the virus, and they do not affect the virus. And many of these mutant viruses die because they are not able to replicate. But some of them do change the behavior of the virus, because mutations in key areas changes amino acids, and that changes protein structure, and so viruses become more efficient with respect to transmission. Sometimes they can become more virulent also, means they can cause more severe disease also. Today, over the last 1 year, we have 5 variants, mutants, that are spreading fast, and thereby they are called variants of concern. And these 5 are the UK variant, which here is represented on the left as B.1.117, South African variant, which is mutations over the UK virus, and that is B.1.351. Then the Brazil variant detected in Brazil, which is P.1. Then we have the Californian variant, which was detected in California in late last year, B.1.427. This is the forerunner of the Indian variant, which we call the Maharashtra mutant or the double mutant, and that is called B.1.617. So these 5 variants or mutants have been classified as variants of concern by the WHO and the Public Health England. Now let's come to the B.1.617, because it is very fast spreading within the country and it is taking over many states. This is an example to show you. This is a wave curve about various variants. You can see the key on the right side. B.1.617, the double Maharashtra mutant, is represented in red color. It started as a very small proportion in Bengal, and in a matter of a few months, you can see now most of the viruses being sequenced in Bengal is the Maharashtra mutant. The same is the case with many South Indian states. Starting from January 2020, when there were a few mutants detected in South India, you can see more than 50% of viruses circulating in South India today are predominantly the Maharashtra mutant. Now, this is the global circulation of 617 in the last 2-3 months. As of yesterday, it has spread to 48 countries, and it is spreading fast in some countries like UK, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries. Because it is spreading very fast, and that's the map that shows you, there is a large genomic database globally that is maintained, and that database has shown that it originated in India and it is spread across to various countries in the world. And because of this, the World Health Organization and Public Health England classified it as a variant of concern. Now, what does a variant of concern mean? It means it spreads to more number of people compared to a non-mutant parent virus. So infectivity of many of these variants is 40 to 60% more than the parent virus that first came out in Wuhan in China in late 2019. Mutant or no mutant, we know that the best way to protect oneself against this virus is by wearing masks. Why do we say that? Because the virus is a respiratory virus. It causes primarily respiratory disease. It multiplies in the nose, throat, and in the lungs. And when people cough, sneeze, breathe, sing, talk, virus droplets known as are thrown out, which we can't see with the naked eye. And if the droplet is slightly bigger in size, It usually falls to the ground because of gravity, and that's about 3 to 6 feet. So large droplets you can avoid by wearing mask and also staying 3 to 6 feet away from other people. If nobody wears mask, the chances of getting infection from a person who is COVID positive is 90%. If the healthy person wears a mask and the COVID person is not wearing a mask, the chance is 30%. If both with the infected person wears a mask and the normal person does not wear a mask, chances are 5%. If both wear masks and maintain a distance, it's been 1 to 5%. So we know this not only now, but we know it for a very long time. And we knew it more with influenza epidemics. We knew it during the 2009 pandemic. Before that, SARS was controlled in China and other countries by wearing masks. We did not have vaccines. MERS is also controlled by wearing masks. So I'm dwelling on this because this is something extremely important. Masking and distancing are both extremely important. When I say wear a mask, I realize quite often, even including among people who are educated and some of them are healthcare personnel, masks are worn as more a routine, as a chore with no interest in it. And of course, some people wear masks as ornaments below their neck, on their head, and even appear on TV channels with that. It's very amusing to watch people like that. Mask has to be worn properly, and there are 3 types of masks people generally use: cloth mask, surgical mask, and the N95 aerosol prevention mask. Masks of cotton and surgical masks should be 3 layers because that is when it is effective in preventing droplets from entering your nose and mouth. It should be worn tight, entire nose, this entire area of nose, mouth, chin, it should be tightly covered. If you wear a mask properly, you should experience some discomfort in breathing. That's when your mask is worn properly. And of course, mask cannot be worn eternally. Many people practice that. All masks are effective for 6 to 8 hours, following which the moisture in the breath will make the mask wet, and water molecules act as a vehicle to transport virus from outside. So you need multiple masks. If you are wearing it for a long time in a day, you need to keep changing masks. Cotton masks are reusable. Surgical and N95 masks are not reusable. Cotton masks can be put into water and soap, washed, that kills the virus, dried in the sun, and then pressed and used. Please do not reuse surgical masks and N95 masks. Maybe once or twice, but definitely not beyond that. Remove the mask from your ears where the straps are holding. Never touch a mask after its use in front of the face because you will contaminate your fingers. Washing hands is the other one. What did we learn about COVID during the last 1 year? In the first wave, we knew this is a heat map of Karnataka, which we published. Just to give you a story, we knew that 90% of the people, you look at the tables on the right, the first table tells you 90% were asymptomatic, 3,096 as compared to 300 who were symptomatic. So asymptomatic infections are very common or mildly symptomatic. Who are the people who are most affected in the first wave? It is people above 50 years of age. They constituted 70%. Who are the people who had severe disease and died? Elderly people with comorbidities like diabetes and hypertension. So we knew about it. Now, how does COVID produce disease? This is something that we need to understand. This virus attaches to a very, very important molecule on human cells that controls blood pressure. It's called angiotensin converting enzyme receptor. So the virus attaches there then it can enter cells, multiply and kill cells. That's one mechanism. Because it attaches to blood pressure receptors, it can alter blood pressure and produce hemodynamic changes. Because it attaches to blood vessel lining, which is called endothelium, all blood vessel linings, it can multiply and damage and result in clot formation. So microclots are formed in blood vessels, and this can cause complications. But the most commonest mechanism by which virus produces lung disease is not on its own. The virus multiplies in the lung and induces a very aggressive defense reaction from the human defense system. It's a very aggressive, resulting in the immune cells homing into the lung and pouring out loads of fluid. So the air sac becomes bags of water, thereby oxygenation gets affected and the patient eventually succumbs if he is not treated properly. The father of modern microbiology described this very beautifully on his deathbed, saying, "The germ is nothing, the terrain is everything." So let's not blame the poor virus for the disease. It's the way that we respond that we decide whether we'll have a mild illness or a serious illness. On the left, you see the common symptoms: fever, cold, running nose, dry cough, breathlessness, fatigue, myalgia, diarrhea, recent loss of smell or taste. Now, all these are symptoms of COVID. So any of these during the current wave, if you have loss of smell and taste, that is diagnostic of COVID. I mean, you don't even need a test. All the others, please suspect that you have the infection and then get tested. Testing is the only way that you will know whether you have the infection. Fortunately, 80% of people, as shown in the pyramid in the center, are mildly symptomatic or no symptoms. 10 to 15% of people are the people who develop some severe symptoms, become breathless and require oxygen support. But it's the unfortunate 5 people who become very critical, require ventilatory support, they go on the ventilation. When does this happen? Usually fever runs for 2 to 3 days. In some people, fever can run for 10 days and be the only symptom. But when do these people start deteriorating? You should remember between the 5th and the 10th day, people deteriorate. So if you are asymptomatic and at home, please monitor your oxygen with an oximeter. And that oximeter monitoring has to be at least 5-6 times during the time you're awake. And also, one important simple test that you should do is the 6-minute walk test. It's a very simple test. Take your pulse oximeter reading by putting the clip onto your finger. Note down the reading. Briskly walk inside the room for 6 minutes and again take your concentration. And the difference between the first reading and the second reading should not be more than 5%. That means if the first reading was 97, up to 92 is okay. But if it's 90, that means it's 7% less, then it is an indicator that you need to get into a hospital and you may need oxygen. Most people do not do this. Most people are not aware of this. Since their symptoms are very mild for 3 to 4 days, people stop monitoring themselves. Then what happens on the 7th day? When oxygen starts dropping, it happens very dramatically over 12 to 24 hours, and within a day you will be breathless. That is why, remember, you have to keep yourself monitoring, always more so between 5 and 12 days. COVID on the right shows you that it affects almost every system. Post-COVID complications can be in the brain, like encephalitis and stroke. It can cause kidney injury, it causes heart attacks, and a lot of problems in the heart. It causes diabetes in people who have not been diabetic or worsens. It causes skin problems. It causes liver problems. Today, you know COVID, you know entire medicine. You are a multi-specialist if you have treated COVID. The best way human beings in the history in the last 100 years you have seen, they rely a lot on vaccines. I have a slide that I'll talk to you why vaccination is very attractive. Uh, Vaccines are produced after meticulous research and taking care that a lot of testing is done. Broadly, vaccines are produced in there are three stages in vaccine production: a preclinical testing, clinical testing, and then monitoring. The preclinical testing is normally for conventional vaccines, it used to take 3 to 5 years. Clinical testing used to take 3 years. But in the case of COVID, it is unprecedented. It's a pandemic. So everything has been done in a matter of 9 months. That doesn't mean we have compromised on research and on safety. Preclinical toxicity, the vaccine is injected into small animals like mice and ferrets. Then they are challenged with virus and they have to be protected. Then it goes to larger animals like monkeys. That is also the same procedure. Their animals are infected with injected with vaccine. 4 weeks later, they're challenged with live virus, and we see whether the animals are protected and they're developing antibodies. If it passes all these tests and there are no problems in animals' organs, then it is cleared for human use. Human use is in 3 phases. First phase is to assess safety. Here, 100 volunteers are injected with the dose, and their metabolism is assessed, their symptoms, if any, are assessed, side effects are assessed, and if it is clear, it is safe, then it goes to phase 2. In phase 2, we are asking the question whether the vaccine is raising the correct immune response, which means, in technical terms, it is immunogenicity. Then we go to the third phase, which is the acid test. Large number of people, 25 to 30,000 people, are given the vaccine. 1/3 of them receive a placebo. A placebo is not a vaccine, but a vitamin or a mineral solution that is given, and it is a blinded fashion it is given. So if you're a volunteer, you don't know whether you received vaccine or you received vitamins. At the end of the trial, we look at how many people in the vaccine group got infection, how many people. They monitor for usually 42 days, 6 weeks after second dose, and see if any of them have developed COVID symptoms, and they sample them and see how many of them are PCR positive. And then the efficacy is calculated. Then after that, of course, when the vaccine is being used in human beings, it is continuously monitored for side effects and its immunogenicity. Today, we have a number of vaccines that have been approved for human use. I'm showing you some of the common ones that you would have all heard. There are 2 that have been used extensively in America. They are in the middle, Moderna and Pfizer. They are both genetic vaccines, meaning the portion that is coding for the spike protein of the virus, which is the most important protein, that RNA is injected and it produces immunity. The vaccine extensively being used in India is the Oxford University AstraZeneca vaccine made by Serum Institute, marketed as Covishield. Very recently, India has given approval for Sputnik 5 vaccine, which is made by Gamaleya Labs in Russia. It has been imported as a bulk, but Reddy Laboratories and 4 other companies in India will be starting production. And so by the year end, we'll have 800 million doses being produced of Sputnik vaccine. Other than these 4 vaccines, our own indigenous vaccine, which was developed entirely by India, is the Covaxin, which the virus used there was virus isolated by National Institute of Virology, an ICMR institute, and partnering with ICMR, Bharat Biotech developed a whole virus killed vaccine, which is one of the oldest technologies for vaccine production. And that vaccine is also being used extensively in India. All these vaccines that we are licensed in India and rest of the world almost all of them, except Johnson & Johnson vaccine, you need a minimum of 2 doses. And the mRNA vaccines require very low temperatures for storage, so it makes it a little difficult for use in India. All the others are stored at refrigerated temperature. The efficacy of these vaccines vary. AstraZeneca vaccine, Covishield varies from 60 to 89%. The Covaxin efficacy is 70 to 80%. The RNA vaccines are 95%, and Gamaleya Sputnik vaccine is 92%. So vaccines, when they came last year, then everybody was excited, and rightly so. And at the same time, this first wave of India started subsiding by November after peaking in September, October. And there were many people pundits who wrote saying India may not have second wave, it has handled it beautifully, and a second wave seems unlikely, and so many elegant articles were written. But some idiots like me in end of November said, no, this is not the end of the story. History has told that there will be a second wave, and that will be larger based on the Spanish flu experience. Anyway, in the first wave, we gave a lot of importance to lives, and that hit our economy and livelihoods. So when we came out of the first wave, naturally, we started giving more importance to livelihoods. And that also resulted in a lot of super spreading events like parties, crowds, weddings, rallies, elections, and many of these small sparks, as I call it, super spreading events, lit up a big fire. And once a big fire is lit, even fire engines cannot douse it. So that's what happened. So a lot of things contributed to the second wave. Let me tell what they are. Crowding. First of all, not masking. And even before that, the attitude that COVID is come and gone, we have won the war on COVID. B, no mask. C, crowding in closed spaces, leading to super spreading events, election rallies, religious congregations like Kumbh Melas. And then, of course, you had mutants that started emerging late last year. So the mutant was the icing on the cake, but the cake was baked by us, and the mutants was the icing on the cake. Well, this is the second wave, as you can see it. Every European country has had 3 waves, and so also America has completed 3, and it's completing its 4th wave. So it is but natural that we will have a next wave for several reasons. Now, I told you already why the second wave occurred, and I also want to tell you it is much steeper than what people expected. It's much bigger. It caught us unawares. The number of cases in most places compared to the first wave is 5 to 7 times more. That's why we are having shortage in beds, shortage in oxygen. Of course, we did not expect it, so I called it poor planning. And different states will be peaking differently because India is not one country in terms of population, it is 30 countries. And of course, the healthcare system had to bear the brunt of the entire second wave. That summer will prevent transmission is a myth. That new strains have made the virus more deadly is one school of pundits in WhatsApp University telling me. The other group of pundits in WhatsApp, no. As virus waves progress, the virus will become less virulent. Both are armchair theories and not based on any scientific fact. The mutants are more infectious, yes, but they are not more deadly. Because they are more infectious, you are seeing more number of patients. Because you're seeing more number of patients, proportion among them with severe disease is also more. That doesn't mean it is more deadly. Older people were at risk during the first wave, younger people are at risk again a myth. The fact is, people in India is a young country. People between 20 and 45 represent a large proportion of our population. If you look at COVID positive serious cases and look at their age breakup, the distribution is exactly what we saw in the first wave. Elderly in the middle age and elderly are having severe disease, and younger, less number of people are having, younger people are having severe disease. Another huge myth, and I don't know who manufactures these myths and perpetuates them on WhatsApp. Dr. Kalyan Sundaram and I have been looking for them. If you find them, please, I want to take a selfie with them. RT-PCR test misses the new mutants. I don't know who said this. It's absolute rubbish. RT-PCR tests that we use amplify 3 genes, and 90% of the tests we use don't use the spike gene in the test. Most mutations occur in the spike protein. So consequently, the tests are not missing RT-PCR. Tests are coming negative. Yes. If people come late in the illness, in breathlessness to a hospital, at that time, the nose and the throat swabs will be negative because lung has moved down deep into, virus has moved down deep into the lung. So lung fluid is what will give you a positive test. And of course, when you have huge surge, specimens are not collected properly, they're not stored properly, they're not transported properly. All these factors contribute to the false negativity in slabs. Hospitalization is necessary for everybody because in the second wave, the virus is more deadly. No. 80 to 90% have mild symptoms. They can be managed at home, but monitoring themselves or monitoring by a healthcare worker is absolutely essential because you can suddenly deteriorate in the second week, as I mentioned. So hospitalization is not required. Similarly, everybody does not require remdesivir and everybody does not require oxygen. These are myths that are there. I'll come to it shortly. Inhaling steam is good, but if you believe it is killing virus, that is nonsense. Inhaling steam makes your respiratory passages clearer. It liquefies secretions. Thereby, you feel that you are able to breathe freely. It also clears the sweat pores in your face and you'll start looking more beautiful. So go ahead, steam, but don't believe steam kills the virus. There are many other myths that mobile networks transmit virus. I wish it could through WhatsApp, and so that all WhatsApp messages could be deleted in one's mobile, but unfortunately it's not true. There are many myths around vaccines. It was rushed and it isn't safe. I told you it has gone through all the stages and it is safe. It changes your genetic material. No, RNA vaccines don't integrate into our genome. It can give you COVID-19. We are not using live COVID virus. We are using either killed virus, or we are using genetic material, or we are using foreign viruses where only one protein of COVID is displayed, like the AstraZeneca vaccine. It contains egg protein. No, COVID vaccines are not made in eggs, like flu vaccines or some other vaccines. It causes severe side effects. No, the frequency of side effects is very, very less. We'll come to that shortly. It makes women sterile. These are anti-vaccine lobbies perpetuating wrong news. And also this myth that women should not take vaccines when they have their periods because it is very dangerous. No, they can take it during their periods. So I think these are all myths. I wanted to clear it for you. The road ahead. How is it going to? Well, it's a road. That's my most favorite figure on the left. That photograph, a road with many road humps. I was talking to Satish I believe he makes suspensions for vehicles. So Satish, this is very apt for you. You better, even our life should be like the suspensions that Satish make. Whenever we come to a wave, which is equivalent to a hump in this figure, we have to slow down. We have to slow down, reduce some of our activities, curb our activities, and then get over the wave and proceed till we meet the next speed breaker. We cannot travel at full speed. As I said in the first wave, we gave importance to lives, livelihoods took a beating. Second time we said, no, livelihoods are very important. No, this is a mild virus, it will come and it will go. But the virus caused a huge surge. Now we are talking of lockdowns. Remember, life is not black and white. A large part of life is lived in gray. So both lives and livelihoods are important. We have to learn to balance both. We have to learn to respect the virus. And what we are seeing now is much like the curve you see in the center on the right side. A first wave, a huge second wave, and the way we behave and the way we vaccinate people, we will determine the height of the third wave and the fourth wave. Vaccination is one of the most important tools available to us. In human history, vaccination is the most attractive possibility that has been used for preventing any disease. Whether it is rabies, whether it's smallpox, whether it is polio, whether it is measles, vaccines. Why are vaccines so popular? It's a time-tested strategy for many diseases. It induces protection artificially in a very effective manner. The acceptability is high. That's what human history tells you. However, it is expensive and laborious. Is vaccine the only solution? The obvious answer is no. Behavioral change is the most simple solution, less expensive, but very difficult to implement. Imagine what happened between the first and the second wave. We don't want to wear masks. We are not used to it. It's something new. I don't know, people give hundreds of excuses. It's uncomfortable. Well, it's life. If you have to protect your life, you have to wear a mask. The virus is telling you, slow down. There's no need to be close with another human being, especially in markets and closed spaces. You can maintain a distance. Heavens won't fall if you don't have elections. Heavens won't fall if you don't have Kumbh Melas. Heavens don't fall if you don't have marriages for every year. Heavens won't fall. I don't know. I hear this constant argument, we cannot curb economic activity. Do elections contribute to economic activity? If so, please educate me how. Do Kumbh Melas contribute to livelihoods and economic growth? Please educate me. Can we now sit back and say, we are going to say no to these? If it is not going to be accepted, can we take a personal resolution? I shall not indulge in A, B, C, D in the interest of my health and my family's health. Vaccines are an artificial method of producing a very aggressive defense against viruses. The immune system is bombarded with the correct type of proteins of the virus to make antibodies and also to make foot soldiers known as cell-mediated immunity to eliminate viruses. This is the vaccine coverage status of India as of yesterday. We have given approximately, totally, I think, about 17 crore doses. We have given more first dose vaccine to many people compared to second dose. But what I want you to focus on is on the graphic on the right. We opened up initially for healthcare workers and followed by frontline workers, then those above 60. April 1st, we said 45 to 60. Then huge demand. saying open up for everybody. So the country opened up for anybody above 18. This vaccine is not permitted for use in pregnant women, women who are breastfeeding, and children, because the clinical trials did not include these participants, and they are special groups. So right now trials are going on. So we'll have results probably in 2-3 months in these groups. Having said that, look at what we have achieved so far. In those above 60, only 40% we've been able to immunize. In those above between 45 and 60, close to half of them we are able to immunize. We've just opened up for the younger lot, and you can see that in the younger lot, 9.2% of people, about 4.9% of the people have been immunized in the last 10 days or so. Vaccination is going to take time. India requires for its 100 crore adult, 200 crore doses of vaccine. The entire world's production capacity is not 200 crore doses. 200 crores is 2,000 million doses. So we require time to ramp up production. We are doing that. And we require time to vaccinate. This is not like polio vaccine. You can drop into the mouth of a healthcare worker, can go and immunize hundreds of people just walking house to house. People have to come to a center. There should be a doctor, there should be a nurse, and the process takes 1.5 hours. So it takes time. In a day, we are touching now, I think in the previous slide I showed, in a day, we are probably doing 17 to 20 lakh vaccines a day. I think that's coming in the next slide. 17 to 20 lakh vaccines a day. That's what we are doing. It's here in the top. 17 lakh 91,077. That's sorry, 17 crores immunized. Yesterday was 20 lakh doses. That's what we gave yesterday, approximately. So it is going to take time, which means it's going to take 6 to 8 months. Yesterday evening, the government of India revised the advisory for spacing between vaccines, especially Covishield. Covishield was initially advised 4 weeks apart between the first and second dose. Then it was increased to 6 to 8 weeks. Now it's increased to 12 weeks. Now there's a lot of debate. I was also on a debate last night at a TV channel. Is this advisory based on science or is it based on sense? It's based on both. It's based on science because the original trial conducted last year showed that participants were divided into 3 groups for second dose for Covishield, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and 12 weeks. And those at 12 weeks had better antibody response, and they had a better protection. Now, this makes it very important. What is protection? So I think you have to understand the word protection. Protection means no severe disease. Protection means no death. Protection does not mean no infection. I think there is too much of expectation in people asking that a vaccine should protect against infection. It is not going to protect infection. No vaccine so far has been developed. There are some that are under trials. If they come, they are promising. They are nasal vaccines. Let us wait for them. Because the trial results said 12 weeks is better, UK what it did, it adopted the 12-week interval. And so that it could give more number of first doses to people and cover a large proportion. Even at the end of 1 dose, you get 50 to 60% protection against severe disease and death. So India adopted this both for science and for SEM. Second, as I told you, people who get natural COVID infection, their immune response lasts for 3 to 5 months. And after that, it will start declining between 3 to 5 months. So the government of India yesterday gave an advice at the end of 6 months. If you are infected already, you can take the second dose at 6 months. But I personally believe that is too long. I think they will soon revise it. It should be between 3 to 5 months after you are positive for COVID. People do get infected after taking vaccine. This is some small amount of data which ICMR started collecting very recently. It is 0.2% for Covishield after one dose, 0.4% for Covaxin. And after the second dose, it is 0.3% for Covishield and 0.4% for Covaxin. But each of us knows somebody who's received a vaccine and has been infected, but all of them are having very mild disease, no severe disease. So vaccines are extremely useful. As I said, vaccines guarantee protection against COVID severity and death, but it does not prevent infection. Therefore, one has to continue wearing masks, maintain distance, and wash hands even after vaccination so that you don't get infected. More importantly, you don't transmit infection to others. This is the capability of vaccine production. India stands second after USA. India's capacity is to make 3.13 billion doses. Hopefully, we will reach that. Apart from the waves of corona, there are other waves one has to remember. We went through enormous morbidity, mortality, and logistic preparation, which is the first wave. The second wave is what we have gone through between the last 8 months, where a lot of resources, restriction, livelihoods affected. And then, of course, we are going to face the next phase of interrupted interruptions because of COVID the next 1 year or so. But throughout, from the beginning of COVID, Dr. Kalyan Sundaram and his specialists have faced a number of people who have had psychological trauma, mental illness, economic injury, and healthcare workers is burnt out. So these are the other waves of COVID. There will be a third wave. I was one of the first fools to stick out my neck and say it will be there and it's going to come in like the second wave, if not to that magnitude, maybe lesser. Every country in the world around us has gone through a third wave. We are no exception. We'll get a third wave because we will not be able to immunize all adults. Waves usually come between a gap of 3 to 5 months. In the next 6 months, 7 months after this wave subsides, towards the end of the year is when the third wave will come. It will affect adults and children. All the adults who are not vaccinated now will be at risk of COVID that time, and children will be more in numbers. In the first wave, they were 4%. In the second wave, they are around 10%, but some places 20%. So they will come in large numbers. And they are vulnerable because they don't even have a vaccine. And if we open schools, we may start super spreading events. So we'll have to have a discussion. Do we open schools, colleges continuously? Are we going to be online? Or we are going to have interrupted online, offline? Whenever there is a small surge in a locality, we're going to shut down, then open up after 2 weeks. We have to prepare for beds, oxygen, and essential drugs, which we have in the second wave. The same thing will continue because all adults who are not vaccinated will again be targets. We also have to prepare for beds, oxygens, and drugs for children. We need pediatric intensive care units. And we also have to ask the question, are we going to treat COVID children and other sick children in the same hospital? Do we have plans for segregation? I think there's a lot of homework to do. But most importantly, I would appeal to all of you, avoid crowding. Don't go to crowded places. Don't go to religious gatherings. Don't go to weddings. Minimize them. They are not required. Let the groom and the bride marry along with their families. Don't have rallies. Definitely no elections. Because I am very convinced that elections do not propel economy. I think we should say nothing will happen. We can have president's rule. We can extend the term. depending on which body there are elections. I don't think they are required. This is my personal opinion. Wear masks is very, very important another year, and wear them properly and maintain social distance. I think these are the lessons. Since you are all people working in the industry, I would like to make one point in this slide, the last point. Use a risk matrix in your workplace. This, I have been an advisor for Tata Steel and Biocon, and we have put protocols in place in these large factories where we divide people into green, yellow, and orange categories. Green means people who have minimal contact with others. They are less likely to get infected. Red means they are people who have contact with many people in your workspace and they are in crowded areas. So canteen workers, those who provide other services, security guards, these are the people who are in contact, and vendors who come and go, they are in contact. And there are, of course, others who are in the in-between category. So if you can classify your employees at workplace and take care of work, and also introduce periodic testing once in 15 days, and you have to work out these protocols, and I'm happy to provide a separate assistance to you in giving you advice and protocols on how this can be done. Remember, closed spaces with poor ventilation, crowds. What is a crowd? More than two is a crowd. And close contact settings is where the virus thrives and jumps from one person to another. Wearing a mask, maintaining distance, and washing hands is the way. To summarize, SARS-CoV-2 is a new virus. You can get protection either by infection or by getting vaccinated. Vaccination is an easier way to get protection. Please go ahead and get vaccinated. It is safe. Also use social vaccine. What is social vaccine? Wear a mask, maintain distance, and wash your hands. Remember one thing, that unless we change our behaviors, the virus will not stop circulating. If we wear masks, we protect vulnerable people at our home, elderly and the children. The road ahead is bumpy with many speed breakers, and please use whatever information you got today into changing the vocabulary of COVID. Viruses will mutate, but let us mutate in our behavior and wear masks. Let us quarantine and social distant gatherings, elections, rallies. Let's follow the new normal. And there is an infodemic out there. Try to sieve the grain from the chaff and rely on positive information. Be positive, think positive. I'm sure we'll all be safe if we follow these small tips. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ravi. I'm sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ravi, for a scintillating 60-minute talk on virus behavior, and more importantly, human behavior, which is misbehavior. More than two is a crowd. Section 144, all four members keeping 6 feet apart, not social distance, but physical distance. If you do not follow the fundamentals, if you insist on going and hugging the virus will walk inside and say, thank you very much, I'm with you. And it will also say, I'm just not with you, I'm going to be friends with your friends and their friends and their friends. And we are sitting here and lamenting, why did it happen? Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a second wave, this is a tsunami. Dr. Ravi has warned, third wave will come. People are asking, how can we prevent third wave? You don't prevent third wave by sitting tight on the peak of the second wave. You prevent by your behavioral change. There are about more than 200 questions which have been divided into various sections. which has come in advance, and there are questions that are pouring into this. Ravi will have to spend midnight with us, and I think both of us will have some, fresh juice and meal to continue this conversation. But let us take a few questions. In the second wave, deaths of young people seem to be more than the first wave. Any particular reason? I think Dr. Ravi has already answered this question. Any specific point you want to mention here?
No, I just want to say that we had 5 to 7 times more people. So proportionately, but if you look at the fatality rate, it is still same as what it was in the first wave.
Is new mutant airborne? I thought it was airborne.
Virus. We acknowledge now that the virus is airborne, and let me get this terminology very clear. Whenever there are droplets that are more than 5 micrometers in diameter, they will fall to the ground. So they are more dangerous because they have more virus, and when you are close to a person, you get infected heavily with big droplets. The smaller droplets travel in the air for a longer distance, and this, when you say travel in the air for longer distance, is inside closed spaces. If you are in the garden, which with the air, with the breeze blowing, it gets diluted and washed away. There it is not airborne. In closed spaces, more so in public toilets, closed toilets, bars, pubs, restaurant, basements, clubs. Yes, it is airborne.
Bus travel, close to train travel.
Yes.
All of those places.
Yes.
Ravi is going to love this question. Body disposal example in Ganga River. In such conditions, can we be free of coronavirus in the upcoming days?
Body disposal in Ganga? I didn't get the last part.
Body disposal in Ganga River, for example. In such situations, can we be free of coronavirus because it has just been disposed of in the Ganges?
Oh, yeah. That's a very, very nice control strategy. I think we should adopt it everywhere, even in tanks and wells in the houses. I mean, what can I say? It's so sad. It's so sad that in the 21st century, we are still having practices that disseminate not the virus, but deadly bacteria from a dead body, contaminating the water. Virus at least will not live for very long in a dead body, but other bacteria will pollute the water, and absolutely unwarranted, and it should not be done.
Many people are concerned about the third wave, and we have mentioned in the past a few lectures, even today you emphasize, be careful, it might attack the children. And they don't have a vaccine for the children yet. So how do we protect our children?
I think
because we also talk, Ravi?
If I sound alarmist, please forgive me. The only thing is I'm cautioning people. The good thing about children is larger proportion of them are asymptomatic. But recognizing the illness in children is something that's a challenge, because if they're very young, they don't complain. You will have to look for signs in them. Increased breathing, if it's a neonate or a toddler or an infant. Increased breathing, temperature, not taking feeds, So recognition is important. But we have 30 crore people who are under 18 in this country. Even if a very small proportion of get the infection and disease, so that is what we should be planning. How do you prevent? Vaccines will come in the next 3-4 months. Get your children vaccinated. Yesterday, the Drug Controller General gave permission for Covaxin trials between 2 to 18. Pfizer is completing its trials. So I'm sure other vaccines also very quickly will do trials in children. So get vaccinated. We'll have to, as a nation, have discussions and decide whether we are opening schools. And if we open schools, are we ready for interrupted online sessions? Whenever there is a slight change, And most importantly, I think policymakers and government should listen to expert advice. I'm sorry, in the second wave, they did not listen. In the first wave, everybody listened, and so we managed. See, evidence, data should drive interventions, not politics, and impressions should not drive intervention. So I think there are many takeaways. We should be ready to continue online maybe for another 6 months till children are vaccinated. But I know online education also had an impact on children. So somewhere we need a balance. As I said, livelihoods, both are important. We are a country of extremes. We latch on to one and then we elect another party the second time and bring the first party again back. I mean, culturally, we seem to do the extremes.
Now, to prevent a third wave, should I go to the terrace for fresh air? Ravi, let me answer this.
Please.
You can go to terrace for a fresh air when you're all by yourself. But don't go there for a crowd and a party. You will destroy all of them. More importantly, wherever you go, wear a mask, keep the distance. If you forget to do the fundamentals, we can go to the terrace, we can go to the park. Wherever you go, if you do not follow the fundamentals, you will be named a super spreader. You will appear in the TV as a specialist in this area. So be aware. Fundamentals, do not forget. What about fungus? People are talking about fungus in the second wave, maybe more in the third wave. Ravi, your opinion on fungus?
Yeah, I want to tell you that it has been there always. Even before COVID, at NIMHANS, Dr. Kalyan Sundaram will recall, we have been seeing this fungus, the so-called black fungus, causing infection in the nose and spreading to the brain. It is very common in people who have diabetes. It is also common in people who have taken steroids for a long time because they're immunosuppressed. In the second wave, it has become very prominent because the number of people who have got severe disease in terms of numbers is more. And this time around, we are using aggressively steroids to treat COVID more than other drugs because it's shown to be beneficial for COVID patients. And if you have a combination of steroids and diabetes, fungal infections of this kind occur not during the acute phase of COVID, but 2 to 3 weeks after you get over the acute phase of COVID. So I think its early recognition is by looking in post-COVID for headache, facial pain, eyeball pain, pain behind the eyeball, drooping of the eyelid. These are some of the early signs. And at that time, you can save them. But once it goes to the brain, mortality is 50%.
Why do we get so exhausted with the virus disease like COVID?
Why did they get?
So exhausted. Why muscle fatigue?
Yeah, see, one of the reasons you get excessive fatigue is this virus is a potent driver of inflammatory molecules. So it produces fever, and sometimes this fever can be quite high, unlike other viral infections. 102, 103 can last for a long time. Because there is so much of cytokines secreted in the body after this infection, they make you feel tired. They produce muscle pains, they exhaust the muscle. That's how you feel tired.
We work in closed spaces, air-conditioned rooms, and we have talked about how kind of a caution we must have. We also, after a long day's work, we want to socialize, we want to have a cup of coffee with our friend, maybe we go to a bar if it is open. We need these kind of an outlets, but how do we balance between our need and caution?
I think it's a balance that you have to strike. First of all, air conditioning is bad. I would say air conditioning because the virus stays in heavy cold air for longer duration of time. Instead of 3 to 4 hours, it can remain 6 to 8 hours. So if you can avoid air conditioning and practice the good old grandmother, grandfather strategy of opening all windows, running the fans full and letting fresh air, There is nothing like it. And operating at 50% workforce, especially when there is a surge, so that your social distancing is guaranteed, rather than having your full staff. Rotate them. One of the lessons we have learned in COVID. You rotate your workforce. Half come this week, and the other half comes that week. I think these are, and of course you will have to innovate in your own workspace. There are no one size fits all solutions for everybody.
There are certain questions come into the category of psychology. How many days do we have to suffer with this COVID? Will there be a light at end of the tunnel? When will that be? Any predictions, Dr. Ravi?
Yeah, I read my palm myself, and my viral astrology says another year. By that time we'll get vaccinated, provided all of us wear masks and maintain social distance for the next 1 year.
Some people say vaccination causes problem. Can I avoid being vaccinated, Dr. Ravi? When you say all of us should
Of course
get
you can.
vaccinated.
This is a democratic country. Of course you can get, you need not take vaccine, but be sure the virus will catch you. And once a virus catches you, it's a lottery. And I don't like playing lottery. I don't know about you, Sundar. Yeah, but
I will add to this.
Yeah.
By not taking vaccination, you are posing a risk not only for yourself, your immediate family members, and your other friends who have already been vaccinated, and you're going to be a willing donor to them and an unwilling recipient for them. I think you have a social responsibility today to take this vaccine, notwithstanding several pundits, several other armchair theorists who say, I have seen people taking vaccination and yet getting infected. Why does it happen, Ravi? Vaccinated and infection.
Because we have not understood the word protection. And secondly, we as a species are very greedy. Name one vaccine in the history of medicine that has prevented infection. It has not. Polio vaccine prevents paralytic illness, but you get infected and you excrete polio virus in your stools. Measles vaccine prevents measles disease, but virus multiplies in your throat and you can pass the infection to others. So why are we expecting COVID vaccine to do miracles? First of all, such a vaccine is a myth. If it comes, it's a bonus. So what more do you want? It's protecting severe disease and it's protecting death. When will your greed end? Thank God it is not preventing infection. If it prevents infection, Sundar, people will not wear masks, they will not maintain distance.
So what you are saying, Ravi, is this. You take vaccination, the chances of your protection against illness like COVID infection is very high. You can prevent it to a very large extent. If you do by chance, by ill luck, you get it, and you're going to have very, very minimal, mild symptoms, you can get away with it.
Absolutely.
But even after getting the 2 vaccinations, you cannot walk like a Tarzan with a chest open and say, I have done it, I am now a champion, I don't need mask, I will wander around wherever I want because I have had 2 vaccinations, I can do what I want. Isn't that a very foolish thing to do?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So protection, no matter what you do, even after two vaccinations, masking, distance, and no partying, no gatherings until the large sections of the society and your community and your family are all protected with the vaccination. Then only we can think of it, not even act on it. Performing pranayama daily helps to prevent COVID. Not a statement, thankfully, but question mark.
Yeah. Pranayama is a very good exercise. It has several benefits, not only on the respiratory system, on the brain and the immune system. But pranayama, there is no evidence to say, has results in preventing viral infection, nor is there any molecule that is produced after pranayama that is antiviral. So, pranayama is very good to do always, more so after someone gets COVID, because it helps your lungs.
Lung capacity. Yeah.
Lung capacity.
Now, there are fundamental questions people always want to know. I get infected. I do not know when I'm infected. On this Monday, I have developed symptoms. I have a mild cough, some fever, throat irritation. I'm kidding myself and saying this is not COVID and this is only a throat infection. After 2 days, this worsens. I begin to get cough and I walk. I become slightly breathless. Now, by then, it is 3 days since my first symptom. But I'm asking you, Ravi, that infection is already set in before your first symptom, at least 2 days. So, given the scenario, when do I get my test done? When is it likely to be positive? When am I infective to others? When will I stop infecting others in the next 2-week period? This is a question that keeps coming in different forms.
Okay. Okay. Very, very nice question. First of all, if you are in contact with a known positive person, you should have a very, very high index of suspicion. Get yourself tested immediately. If I have been positive and Sundar and I had a chat today, this evening, and tomorrow I told him, Sundar, I'm positive, then on tomorrow, Dr. Kalyan Sundaram will get tested. And again, he will get tested the 5th to 7th day from tomorrow. That is because the highest chance of a test being positive is 5th to 7th day after virus enters the body. That is if you are asymptomatic. The moment you have any of the symptoms that I showed you in the slide, first day you can get tested, and if it is COVID, it will show up. In symptomatic people, COVID test, don't delay, do it on the day you got your first symptom. And 95% chance you will detect the virus if it is COVID. Number 3, 1 week after you develop symptoms or 1 week after you are known to be positive of a contact, both these, from the day you are positive, please monitor your oxygen. You are likely to worsen between 5 to 12 days. I made that point. How long will I be infectious? Actual data says for 14 days. Most of the people clear the virus 14 days. That's why the quarantine time is 14 days. And then we say, come out of your isolation room, wear a mask and stay for another 7 days. Just to be careful, because there are those odd people who shed virus for a long time. Okay?
So at the end of 14 days, you come out of a quarantine, but you must wear a mask and you do not compromise.
Yes.
Now, the current protocol says, Ravi, compared to what the earlier time we talked about the last time,
10 days.
that after we have finished 14 days of quarantine, I'm symptom free for the last 7 days, I'm fine. Should I do a test again, or it is not necessary? Please
It is not necessary.
emphasize that.
It is not necessary right now in the second wave, because we have enough experience during the first wave and enough information collected all over the globe through various studies, that if you are symptom free, underline that, if you are symptom free for 7 days in your 14-day period, then there is no need for a test. You have stopped shedding virus.
Now, several questions have come about the same thing. I have taken the first vaccination. I'm due for my second vaccination between 4 and 6 weeks. I'm ready. But lo and behold, I have been hit by COVID. So 1st of May, I'm hit by COVID. Today is 14th. From your description, I am now free of COVID. Maybe from tomorrow, day after, I'm back to moving with the family and I'm come out of quarantine. My injection vaccination is due next week. Should I take? Should I not take? And when should I take?
You should take, but you should not take immediately. I was talking about the guideline.
Yes.
Government
Yes.
says you can take it at the end of 6 months, but I would advise you take it 3 months after your PCR result came positive. You had your vaccine.
So you have to wait for not 2 months. You think you recommend 3 months of waiting.
Why
do you want to?
Because the infection itself is a booster. And when the active immune response is going on for following a natural infection, don't disturb it. You wait for it to subside, and then you take the vaccine. Actually, you are at benefit because you are a person who's receiving a booster, third booster, or a second booster. You are lucky that you are getting exposed 3 times, so your responses will be better. Don't do it immediately because your natural immune response is already there. So there is no need to tire the immune system down with another shot. So wait for the shot and take the benefit of it 3 months later.
I have taken the second shot, and 3 days later, but with some symptoms, I have tested positive. How did it happen?
How did it happen? Because you went to the vaccination center and got the vaccine. Got the virus. If it is 3 days.
Yeah. So that means even after you're taking the second shot, the fact that you have developed symptoms, you have become positive because prior to the second shot, you have picked up the virus, you were not aware of it.
You are in the incubation period. I know of at least 3 people in my WhatsApp OPD who went for a marriage 2 days before vaccination.
Oh my. Now people talk about viral load. What is this viral load? And what is this cytokine storm? Because when people throw these terms in the TV and WhatsApp, people think cytokine storm. Oh my goodness. Oh. This must be something deadly. What is this?
Okay, let me tell you what viral load is. Viral load is the amount of virus in 1 ml of body fluid. It is a misnomer in the context of PCR that is done for COVID virus. What we do in COVID virus diagnosis is a polymerase chain reaction where we replicate virus 40 cycles we do, amplify the little bit of genetic material. And the earlier in the amplifications, if it comes positive, it is surrogate evidence that there may be more virus. But it is not absolute evidence. There is no correlation between viral load and the type of disease one has. We have seen high viral loads in people who are asymptomatic, and we have seen very low viral loads in people who are on the ventilator and very critically ill. So using viral load to manage patients clinically is absolutely useless. It is erroneous. We should not do it. So viral load is not a tool to be used for management of patients, and it is not required to be mentioned even in the report. Second question, what is cytokine storm? It's a very, very, very bombastic word, phrase that Dr. Sundaram.
People get frightened about, yeah.
Yes. When virus multiplies in the human lung, our defense system reacts. It attacks the virus. In the process, it pours out a lot of fluid. We call this inflammatory fluid. Lung is supposed to have air, but lung gets filled with water. How did this water come? Because our army within our body went on a rampage, killed many cells, and poured out, used water cannons and filled the lung with fluid. That is called, and these molecules are called cytokines, and they contribute to flooding of the lungs. So that is referred to as a local cytokine storm within the lung.
Why do people working from home get the virus?
There are many reasons. Many people tell me, I've never stepped out for 3 months.
Correct. Absolutely. Yes.
Right. But you just crack a few jokes and then ask them, yeah, maid servant comes. No, my brother-in-law comes once in a while to have a chat with me. Who told you your brother-in-law does not have COVID? You assume certain people to be safe and certain people, you have some stereotypes in your mind. This kind of person has virus. He used to be bald, he has to wear beard, he has to be in a red shirt, and he should be working in a mental hospital, and he should be a virologist.
And wearing glasses.
Wearing glasses. So that fellow will have virus. Their viruses do not jump on their own. Human contact will be there. Second reason, if there is no human contact, I know of instances in apartment complexes where aerosols contribute. There are studies elegant studies from Hong Kong, and I've done some TV shows on the national television, where, in large, tall apartment complexes, there are chutes next to a toilet. And an infected person excretes virus in his stool for up to 3 weeks. So he can be infectious. So when he or she uses a Western commode and then flushes the toilet with the lid open, from the fecal matter you generate aerosols, and they linger in. Toilets are worst places in human habitation because they are poorly ventilated. So the air is, and they go through the side vents into the chutes, and they can go up, air floats up, so higher floors people can get infected. That is why it's very important every day in the morning for some time to open all doors, windows, and aerate your houses when you live in closed spaces.
And also in multi-story building, they use the lift. We do not know how many people have traveled up and down in the lift, and with or without mask. Yeah, yes. It's a closed space.
Yes. And you will say that I never came into contact, but I went 10 times in the lift to pick up something from the ground floor.
Is it a natural virus or is it a man-made weapon?
I don't know. GOK, God only knows. Available evidence shows that it has 99.9% genetic homology with pangolin virus and 99.5% homology with bat virus. Bats and pangolins were found in a crowded market where the first index case of COVID-19 was reported in Wuhan on December 8th, 2019. So we believe it is a natural virus. Whether it's a man-made virus, even if it is man-made, they've done a fantastic job, because they generally, when man-made viruses, they will put one marker to trace it in the population where all it has gone. Such a marker, genetic marker, is not found in this virus. So the answer is we do not know. We believe it's
all right. We have, it is 6:40. We have crossed 10 minutes, 11 minutes beyond our scheduled time. But with Dr. Ravi's permission, we'll go for another 10-15 minutes. And we will take questions from the floor, which have come in the chat box in the question and answer. There are a lot of questions on psychology, psychiatry, but I have deliberately not taken it because today's emphasis is on Dr. Ravi and Ravi's talk. Psychiatric complications, psychiatric exacerbations, mental health issues is a completely different topic. It's a huge topic in itself. Once we start going into that, there is no end to this. Unfortunately, even though I'm a psychiatrist, I'm not taking this today because Dr. Ravi's core issue will need to address today. What do you think of plasma? People are wanting to give an artificial oxygen. These machines that produce oxygen, people are now buying and keeping it just in case. What do you think?
Plasma therapy is useful in the first 3-4 days, because that's when you neutralize the virus. Once the virus goes to the lung, the disease is produced not because of the virus, but by the aggressive cytokine storm. So plasma therapy should be given pooling plasma which has high levels of antibody. If you collect plasma from everybody and don't test for the level of antibody, then you may dilute the plasma and it may be useless. So these are and those who have recovered from COVID, it's nice to go and donate your plasma. Even if not for a COVID patient, plasma is very, very useful for other patients. So donation of blood or plasma is a very noble act. Please do that. You will not become weak by donation. Second point is the question about oxygen concentrator. Oxygen concentrators have been used for many years. Now they have become in great demand. It's a good idea, if you think, to buy an oxygen concentrator and keep. People, as they grow old, they get obstructive pulmonary disease. Sometimes their oxygen beyond 75, 80, people will need. So it's a good idea to have an oxygen concentrator at home. It costs Right now, it is costing around 70,000 rupees. It takes oxygen from the air, which is about 20% is the atmospheric air concentration of oxygen. It removes nitrogen, which is 70%, and thereby it's able to give you concentrated oxygen. And you can get up to 5 liters per minute in an oxygen concentrator. So I know of many people, many of my friends from US and UK who are through charity sending large number of oxygen concentrators for people to use in India.
Some people say corona is not a virus, but it's a bacteria.
Absolutely.
What does the one who started as a microbiologist, who turned out to be a splendid virologist, what's your take?
It is rubbish. Viruses are different from bacteria. Bacteria can grow on artificial media, on non-living matter. Viruses require living matter and they grow only in living cells. There's a huge difference between bacteria and virus. Bacteria can be treated and cured with antibiotics if they are not resistant, whereas viruses cannot be treated with antibiotics. So this is the fundamental. Bacteria have both RNA and DNA. Viruses have either RNA or DNA. So I can go on, but I don't want to take class on microbiology.
Family of 4 tested positive, mingle as a parents have small kids. It's difficult to keep the kids isolated. True, it's very true. Absolutely. But I suppose you'll have to make sure as much as possible the kind of a separation that can be made. I agree, but keeping the children out of your ambit is difficult. Sometimes they do test positive. I think Ravi has already mentioned that. One practical question: we plan to have our first child, but we are confused for vaccination. Should it be done before pregnancy, or is it effective to be do during pregnancy? Very practical question. Real life situation, young couple, they're married, planning a child. Now this corona has come and confused the whole system.
It is best to get vaccinated before you plan the child.
Brilliant.
Number 2, accidentally people have become pregnant after first dose, or without knowing they have become pregnant. No harm. It doesn't cause any damage to the fetus, but second dose is not recommended till we get enough data from the trials that are going on. My own take is vaccines are safe. These vaccines are safe, but then unless they are tried out and data comes, regulator is not going to give approval. So you may get the approval for pregnant and lactating women, feeding mothers very shortly. So if you are planning a child, better to finish immunization and then plan.
Thank you, Ravi. Now, during the first wave, there's a lot of noise about when you get a parcel, you sanitize it, you don't touch the handle, you don't touch the surface, somebody has touched a plate, virus is sitting on the plate, you don't touch it for 6 minutes, you wait. Now, what is the story now? What do we know about this?
We know at the end of 1 year, through many studies done by many countries, including the Mecca of infectious diseases, the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta. If you go to their website, they very clearly say it's a classical case of came with a bang and went with a whimper. When the virus came new, we were all thinking that, yes, it stays on surfaces. That fact is very true. But that is not the main mode of transmission. Human-to-human contact is main mode. But remember, anything you touch is a good habit to wash your hands before you touch your nose or you eat. That's very important.
We say Sputnik is coming. Sputnik vaccine is coming. Sputnik V double dose. Sputnik Light single dose. I'm a bit confused. Would I be exposing myself to take a single dose because all around me have taken 2 doses?
See, the trial of Sputnik Light is happening right now. The results are not published yet. I am on the board of international advisors of Sputnik. We discussed this in one of the meetings. So it is very early to say whether it will be approved by regulators all over. It depends on the degree of protection it offers. Having said that, Johnson and Johnson is a vaccine that is also a viral vectored, adenoviral vectored vaccine, which when they started the trials itself, they started two groups, one receiving one dose and the other receiving two doses. The one dose one is 70% effective. So regulators are giving approval because you can immunize large number of people very fast with a single dose.
What about smokers? Are they more vulnerable?
Absolutely.
Corona?
The lungs are damaged. The lungs are damaged already. So there are studies from China. You know, China has a high proportion of smokers, and many of the people who developed severe disease during the COVID pandemic in the first wave and had severe disease and died were smokers. Yes.
Okay. Now there are several people who keep asking questions to me in my clinic. I'm sure they ask you the question that come up here. Is there any absolute no for this vaccination in terms of comorbidity? Is there any other medical other conditions that people may suffer from where you can say this person cannot have a vaccination? Because today somebody asked me, sir, my son is mildly mentally subnormal. Can he have the vaccination? My answer to that person is yes. Can a person taking psychiatric medication, can he take the vaccination? Answer is yes. He is having psychiatric disease. My answer is yes. Is there any condition where would you say, Dr. Ravi, that the vaccination should not be given? Or you say, irrespective of what the comorbid condition, because you're dealing with a very deadly virus, it is safer to take a vaccination because it is fine to do it. What do you think?
There is no condition that is an absolute contraindication. But
I think would you repeat this again, please?
There is no disease condition that is an absolute contraindication for COVID vaccination.
Absolutely.
Having said that, I must tell you that before getting vaccinated, a group of some people should inform the vaccinator about their health status, and so that the observation period is better. I know many of my doctor friends who had multiple allergies to food and drugs. They all ask me what to do. I give them the most practical advice. They're all happy. The practical advice is, how do you know you will react to a drug? There is a traditional practice in medicine. You give a test dose, small dose in the skin, and wait for symptoms like itching, tingling of lips, breathing difficulty. If you get such a thing, then immediately they will give you steroids and adrenaline, so you cannot take the vaccine. That is a contraindication. If you have reacted to a test dose, and whom do you give a test dose? For those people who have propensity of allergy to a large number of substances. There also you be careful. And all my 24 friends did not react to the vaccine. It was safe. They waited for 2-3 hours and then they took the vaccine.
So, when will vaccine be available for women who are breastfeeding babies?
Actually, currently the Center for Disease Control advisory on the website, which they put up recently, is it is safe. It is left to the individual lactating mother to decide whether they want to take the vaccine. They have to weigh the benefits and then take the vaccine. Indian government has said in its advisory no for lactating mothers. 3 months time we will have the results in pregnant women, lactating mothers, and also children.
US has said after taking 2 vaccinations, you don't need to wear a mask and you can go around partying and attend music festivals. Dr. Ravi, you were idea about the
Personal
embargo of
opinion, it is absurd, foolish. I thought the present government is better than the previous government because the previous government and the president were advocating it. I don't know what happened to the present president. Anyway, that's my personal opinion. But let me tell you, it's absolutely foolish. It's baseless. Unless you reach 80-85% of the population is already vaccinated, then maybe one can start lowering the guard in an experimental manner. Not more than 55-60% of people in USA are vaccinated. God save USA.
I have taken 2 vaccinations and I am facing 3rd wave. I'm worried there may be a 4th wave around the corner, maybe sometime next year, March, April. Should I take a booster dose next year?
Right now, it is too early to say. From what we know from vaccine trials that started 9 months ago, people are maintaining good antibody levels and protection. They have developed memory cells. Memory cells, if they are there, protection lasts for 1 year. So I would say wait for 1 year. If the virus mutates too much and starts escaping vaccines, which is not done right now, then like influenza shots, you may get a new combination every year, which may have to take. In the meantime, if you've taken 2 doses, please sit back and relax, and also be generous and allow others to take their first 2 doses. Don't go in and say, give me another dose.
After COVID pneumonia, after treatment, how long should the person be isolated? I think Dr. Ravi has made it very clear. If you are symptom free during the 2nd week of your 14-day isolation, you can just get out of your isolation. But do not let your guard down under any circumstances. But if you have had symptoms in the second half of your 14th day, wait for another week. Yeah, wait for another week before you start mixing with other people. All right. We already talked about why is the government keep shifting the gap between especially Covishield. Now, when I took it, it was after 4 weeks. Then it became 6 weeks. Now they are saying 12 weeks. Dr. Ravi has answered because evidence is showing even after 12 weeks, the antibody production in the system is very good. But are we saying it because we do not have enough vaccines, or you actually want us to wait for 12 weeks?
I told you it is both based on sense and science. Science is, in the trial results showed that at the end of 12 weeks, you are still getting protection. Sense is UK did this deliberate experiment saying that we will give a gap of 12 weeks. We want to cover more number of people in the first dose. We do not have enough vaccines to give 2 doses to everybody, but we want a large proportion to get benefit with 1 dose. So they openly accepted and did it. So I think it makes sense and science supports it. So I think it's a very welcome move.
Wonderful. I think Dr. Ravi has done a fantastic job of answering most of all the questions, but we could not take all the questions by paucity of time. We planned for, and we have now come to nearly 120 minutes. It just shows how people are hungry for knowledge and correct information from the correct specialist. All of those people who are sitting here today, they want their first data input from what Dr. Very they all have their input there. Therefore, I think it is important that we understand what the virus has done from the right kind of a person to get the correct perspective. I'm sure all your questions have not been answered because as we listen more, we have more doubts. And that is how natural thinking should be. But the fundamentals cannot be forgotten. Masking, physical distance, no crowding under any circumstances. If you do that, it is under your peril. 2 vaccinations does not guarantee no infection. So be cautious. Do not tempt the virus. Do not tempt your fate. You are responsible not only for your health, you are responsible for the health of your family and people around you and the community. And a very, very big thank.
Dr. Kalyan Sundaram, we can't hear you. Probably, I think your audio is gone.
We can't hear you, Doctor.
Can't hear. I think
we've had a fabulous session. Probably the session was so amazing. Dr. Kalyan Sundaram's earpods maybe ran out of battery and are not able to pick up his voice and share it with us. I really thank Dr. Ravi for being here with us. It's absolutely our privilege to have had you here. I mean, it was amazing what we learned. You could take it from a layman's perspective and translate a very complex science and be able to share it with us. Thank you so much, Doctor, and answering so many questions. I think we are very grateful to you, and I mean, I'm speechless. I think if you were in a live audience, this would have been a standing ovation. So thank you very much. I think the attendance at this program, people usually drop out halfway, 3/4 of the way, and this is way beyond the scheduled time. And I can tell you the single message from this is perhaps the largest event we've had in the southern region. And number two, this is an event where we've not had people drop out till literally the vote of thanks. I was telling Satish, people won't stay for the vote of thanks, but it's amazing. We have everybody who's pretty much stayed on. There's large number of people who didn't join into this, but have joined into YouTube. So we are very grateful to you, Dr. Ravi. Dr. Kalyan Sundaram, amazing, coordinating all the questions, a barrage that came at you, and to be able to package it nicely and get it answered in a very logical and coherent manner. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for bringing Dr. Ravi onto this platform. And my dear friend Satish, thank you so much for making this happen. Thanks to our president, Mr. Deepak Jain. Deepak, thank you. Thanks for supporting this to be a national event. Thanks, everyone. And of course, thanks to our regional team, Anil and Nirja. Thank you so much. And last but not the least, thanks to the audience. Without you, this event won't be where it is. Once again, thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
Thanks a
very
lot. Thank you.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Now, Dr. Kalyan
Doctor,
has
you
his
need
voice.
to
Dr.
share your
Kalyan is
presentation.
back.
There are requests for a lot of requests for a presentation copy. If a shareable version can be given, we'll like to share with all the participants, please.
I'll mail it to, I think I'm in touch with Anil and Satish and Dr. Kalyan Sundaram. From there,
Right.
you
Really appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, doctors. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. ACMA, thank you, Ravi, and thank you all of you for a wonderful chance for us to participate. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Do we disconnect?
Yes, Vikram. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good day. Bye.